Okay, well, welcome everyone to this recap session. I think that's a new format. Honestly, I don't even know whether this format has been in existence or has existed at other meetings. I think it's a great idea. It's a recap session. I think that's a new format. No, I hear myself. Okay, that's okay. That was a recording that I could hear. Okay, so my name is Thomas Schulze. I'm the Secretary for Scientific Sections of the WPA, and I'm very happy to welcome whoever is watching, whoever is tuning in to this recap session. And I'm very happy to be joined by two colleagues of mine, and I would like to ask them to introduce. To say a few words about themselves. So again, my name is Thomas Schulze. I'm a professor in Munich, Germany, and Syracuse, upstate New York. And it's a privilege being on the executive committee of the WPA, taking care of our great sections. And I think this congruence again shows the wealth of WPA. And as a secretary for sections, I would always say it's because of our great sections. So, and we have here two great members of sections, and may I ask Sami, Ouanes, and Mariana, Pinto da Costa to say a few words about themselves. Maybe Mariana want to start, and then Sami.
Sure. Thank you, Thomas, for the introduction, and thank you all that are seeing us live. This World Congress of Psychiatry has been a very interesting experience. It has been an opportunity to meet new people, to be familiar with a platform that actually has a number of sessions that are very different, cover different topics, but also an opportunity to join meetings and integrated in the platform. There are a number of Zoom meetings that happened, and I personally think that was a very unique opportunity and a very nice format. I must say that on occasions, after an amazing talk or an amazing section, I did have the will of just, approaching someone and saying, oh, let's have a shot, and maybe we could, discuss this further for coffee, which unfortunately none of us can. But I actually have received a number of emails from early career psychiatrists, particularly the ones who took part in the 3 minutes competition session, in which there were about 9 presenters in each of these 2 sessions. And one of the colleagues actually just wrote me now saying that they were really interested to hear their fellow colleagues talk, and because of this interaction, they are now going to start a systematic review together. So it's amazing that even by connecting someone remotely through a World Congress of Psychiatry, it's possible to profit from technology to start a new session. So I'm just going to focus on a few other sessions that I attended that I would like to highlight. And I will also make a few comments about sessions that I think you should attend. So first of all, it has been a privilege to know the fellows that won the WPA fellowship in the first day in early hours of the morning. And it was also very interesting to know that there were people that were attending, and for them it was 3 a.m. in the morning, or 2 a.m. in the morning, or some also like normal hours, we can say. It's not everyone who is in a different time zone. So it was very great to meet the new fellows, and also sessions of the quiz chat that Sami is going to focus a bit more. So these are first a few thoughts that I have about the Congress.
Well, thank you very much, Mariana. I think the issue of time zone is a big issue. I'm right now in New York, so my day basically, well, started early, but I had to prepare for many other meetings. So you have already had maybe a good share of the conference, but here the day is only about to start, really. So let's go to Sami. Sami, you are in Qatar, is that right? Or where are you based?
Yes, so I'm in Qatar.
Okay, أهلا وسهلا في قطر.
أهلا وسهلا.
Okay, well, Sami, تفضل, please go ahead and say a few words, and it's great to have you.
Thank you. So hello everyone. So I'm Sami Ouanes. I'm a clinical fellow in Hamad Medical Corporation in Qatar. I'm originally from Tunisia. I'm an early career psychiatrist. So I'm attending this conference also as a fellowship awardee. And so I think I wanted to just highlight a few sessions that really caught my attention throughout the conference. So I think what was really interesting is that we saw a lot of innovative sessions. So there were sessions that were, created for the first time in this conference. For example, the 3-minute presentations, I really liked that. So there was like a competition between early career psychiatrists, and they had to present very briefly a topic of their choice, and so the attendees could rate each of these presentations. I think this was really innovative. This was also an opportunity to know certain colleagues. As someone who attended the sessions, I now think about sending emails, getting connected to some of the colleagues, because I believe that they are doing great work, and maybe we can collaborate on future projects, for instance. I think this is one of the aims of the conference. Another innovative session, I think, is the quiz. So we had the first session on the 10th of March, and there will be another session tomorrow as well. I invite all early career psychiatrists and also maybe less young psychiatrists as well to join the quiz. I think it will be engaging, funny, and at the same time, we got pretty positive feedback. People said that they were able to learn a few things as well while having fun during this quiz. The other thing that I wanted also to talk about in this conference. So now, just before this meeting, I was watching the War and Mental Health symposium or panel discussion, actually, and then just before this meeting started, I just wanted to switch to something totally different, talking about the NMDA receptor antibodies, so something totally different. And I was really surprised to see on maybe the second slide I saw when I switched was talking about anti-NMDA receptor antibodies as possible markers for chronic stress. They were talking about migration and possible, that migrants might have higher titers actually of anti-NMDA receptor antibodies. Sorry. So this is really, I like this gap bridging. So we are bridging gaps between the social part and the social aspect of psychiatry, and then also the medical aspect of psychiatry. So I think now we are seeing more clearly that these are two aspects that are really complementary, but sometimes even explaining each other in a certain way.
Thanks a lot, Sami. I just actually was listening into that war mental health session as well. I think it's a great lineup, and actually I'm biased because I work with them. We are doing a genetic analysis together of these cohorts from Syria and Lebanon, and I visited with them, and it's amazing the work they do. They go into these camps, and it's amazing what you said. You can set up, so you have epidemiology, clinical psychiatry, and you pair it with genetics, and you do it in a tent. You do this. So I think there should be many more of these studies, and I think, as you said, great, challenging new results will come out of this, and we might learn much more about this. The world is awful right now, as we all know. There's always war and always things like that. So I think if we have to be there as doctors and as a psychiatrist especially, and I think we shouldn't shy away from adding a biological component. I'm a psychiatric geneticist, so I always hear things like, "Oh, you can't do that. Let's take care of the people." Absolutely, yes, but why not learn more about it? Because if we take a blood sample or a saliva sample, and this will help elucidate more about the biology underlying, maybe in the future we can better treat them. It's a long shot, but I think it shouldn't hurt. So I always advocate for adding a biological component. So I really like that symposium. I like what they do. Well, thanks, Sami. And Mariana, your name is, of course, we see your name in the program because very often because you do a lot of things with the early career psychiatry section, and it's really as a section secretary section, I'm so grateful for you guys because you I mean, Sami, and you are really an inspiring force here. So maybe, Mariana, is there any? Could you basically just give a little overview of what you have done so far and what people can expect from the early career psychiatry section in terms of session for today and tomorrow, and maybe tell people it's not only for the young folks, right? So please maybe give us an overview.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Thomas, with pleasure. So first of all, perhaps I can start with a definition of what an early career psychiatrist is for the World Psychiatry Association. And actually the definition is quite broad because we know that the duration of training in psychiatry varies tremendously in different countries across the world. So the early career psychiatry session represents not only psychiatric trainees, which is any medical doctor who is pursuing in that country the training, but also people that finish their psychiatric training in the past 7 years. So this is actually quite broad. And the other thing that I wanted to point is in WPA, we don't have any age limitation or cutoff, let's say, which means that, for instance, if you went to study, I don't know, like engineering and then medicine and then, you know, something else, and you did your postgraduate training later on in your career, and maybe you are 70 or 80, but as long as you finish the training in the last 7 years, you still fulfill the definition of early career psychiatrist. And in any case, even if, let's say, after finishing the training in the last 7 years, then you don't fulfill the definition anymore. But we collaborate very closely with other scientific sections, and Thomas is the chair of the scientific sessions overall in WPA, which allows for members of the early career psychiatry section to start networking, to start knowing people from the other sections, which are more focused on their scientific interests. And once they aren't early career psychiatrists as per the WPA definition anymore, they can get more involved in the other scientific sessions of WPA. So in terms of initiatives and opportunities in the WPA Congress, at the moment, we had a number of innovative sessions that have been supported with the help of a number of early career psychiatrists from the advisory committee of this year. And these were the WPA 3 minutes competition that Sami already briefly alluded. And basically, this was an opportunity for each presenter to, in 3 minutes, very clearly to present their topic. And then it was actually the audience who was ranking the sessions. And today we were very surprised because each presentation was followed by a Q&A. So everyone could make their own questions, and these could be either anonymously, or some people they chose to write down their identity. And at one point there was a question posed, and it was signed by Professor Afzal Javed. So everyone was very honored and humbled to have the WPA president attending the WPA 3 minutes competition. So it was really, really good. And I also received a number of messages from early career psychiatrists presenting in this session saying how great it was of an opportunity to be presenting in WPA Congress, plus being asked one-to-one questions by the WPA president. So that was a very nice thing. So the other sessions that we have this year was a format that was suggested by Sami Ouanes with the support of Lamia and other colleagues. And this has been a WPA quiz. And basically they have come up with a number of questions on psychiatry on different areas. And they were advertising for either people to take part individually or in groups. And the first session already occurred. And I think one of the winners has an interesting name of Pavlov's dogs or something like that. Sorry if it's not 100% accurate, but it means, you know, that some people are creative enough to find some names for the groups that are still related with psychiatry. And so the second session of the WPA quiz is going to be tomorrow. So I would highly encourage all early career psychiatrists that are taking part in this Congress to join that session tomorrow. And there's actually one thing that touched me personally to get the information from early career psychiatrists, which was some of them actually told me that because of the pandemic that we are all facing now these days, they weren't allowed to take study leave or leave. And some of them, it was out of actually a lot of efforts that they took part in the Congress, those that were there presenting in brief periods. And one of the things that I think is very unique and an opportunity is for those early career psychiatrists that are now, as we speak, in the front line, and they are delivering services in the pandemic, they can still see the sessions in 1 month from now and see the different symposiums and the different lectures that are pre-recorded. So there is this opportunity to shape our own lives and our own schedules, which at the moment are very busy. And in some cases, there are countries that people cannot take study leave to attend the sessions live. They will be able to do so in another opportunity. So I think that's very good. And then finally, actually not on a scientific point, but I took part yesterday on the social event, which I was curious enough to see what was that about. And it's interesting to see how one can come up with a magic event or the contribution of a magician, and how you can see leading figures in psychiatry just coming up with numbers and trying to take part and be involved in the show. So I hope that these opportunities that are addressing a gap, which is all the social elements that the in-person Congress has, because the reason why normally people ask to attend congresses is to either present a talk or to hear a scientific talk. That's why normally we ask our bosses, let's say, to take part in a Congress. But actually, for everyone who attended already an in-person Congress, we know that taking part in a Congress is so much more, is to be able to approach a person and to ask questions informally, or go to a coffee, or even to be with colleagues in a different part of the world and know how psychiatry is there and interact a bit more socially. But that's not why our bosses would allow us to go to a scientific Congress. But in any case, I think the fact that we now have this platform of the World Congress of Psychiatry, which so much broad and so good scientific content, is very helpful, that in the future and whenever we have time in our lives, we can go back to these sessions and see them at our own pace. So I think this is some of my key points. And so far it has been very, very positive. Too much screen time, to be fair, but it has been good.
Well, thanks, Mariana. I think it was a very nice overview. Before I ask Sami again, yesterday, you, Mariana, and I were in one of our chat brainstorming or chat rooms about the topic being interdisciplinary collaboration. And maybe I think I totally agree with you that there's a certain, maybe a virtual conference fatigue at one point, right? Because we are doing this now all the time, and we yearn for a real meeting at one point again, because you want to grab a cup of coffee and with someone and then discuss projects and what have you. On the other hand, the barrier to engage in a discussion in a chat room, the barrier is lower. I think you say, well, why not try it out? You know, I can always leave. I can always just switch off the video function. And this actually encourages, I think, interactions with folks that normally wouldn't come, or you wouldn't meet. They wouldn't even ask you, they wouldn't even approach you, and can we have a coffee, right? Or can we discuss this? Because I think there's maybe a barrier. Yesterday, I think, was a very small session. We had the genetic section chair present, but also a seasoned psychiatrist from Boston area, but who was in community health. It was his first WPA meeting. That's maybe he was in his, I don't know, late 50s or something. And then he asked questions, or we interacted with him on how can genetics help or inform community psychiatry, and we had a very interesting discussion on these things. So I think this is, the strength of a virtual meeting, that it lowers the barriers to start an interaction. I think this is what I think needs to be. We need to have these things more and more, and this should be actually a big part of the conference. Sami, may I any other thoughts from you?
So exactly, I think this is like the first virtual WPA World Conference, but again, I think it has its pros and cons. So for example, just now I was torn between choosing this session or the other session. I'm also currently deployed as a frontliner actually, so I mean I cannot attend the morning sessions. So I find it good actually to have all of the sessions recorded, and then they will be on the website for at least 3 months, maybe even for 1 year. It's still, I mean, being studied, but at least for 3 months we will be able to access all of this content. So, so this is, I think, definitely a benefit of having a virtual conference. Maybe some people who cannot travel for any reason can also attend. Maybe it's easier for them to attend. But I honestly also miss the, I mean, the networking in person or face-to-face is always better. There's always another side to attending a conference. So you also get to know the history of a city, you can visit the monuments of a city. So all of these things, of course, are missing in a virtual conference. But again, I think the most important thing is to adapt. So the conference is all about psychiatry in a troubled world. I think the topic was chosen even before the pandemic started. So now we are even in a more troubled world with the ongoing pandemic. So I think it was very good to try to adapt the format of the conference, and for example, instead of canceling or postponing again. So and then, as you said, maybe for some people, connecting at least through social media, through chat rooms, etc., can be easier, and at least it can be a start for maybe future collaboration.
Thanks, Sami. Yeah, I would second that. Something came to my mind right now. I mean, WPA has different various kinds of conferences. We are talking about, this is here now a World Congress, which used to be every 3 years. Now it's every year. Well, this was supposed, as you all know, the Bangkok one, 2020, then postponed, and we'll have another one, 2021, at the end of the year. But then we also have our regional meetings or thematic meetings. Again, now with the pandemic, everything is changed, and most likely many of them, and I always encourage everyone to check our website, check out where the meetings are. And so there are the regional meetings and the thematic meetings. They are true WPA meetings, and then we have these co-sponsored meetings where maybe a section comes up with something, or a society, member society, affiliated society, and they get basically an approval, and so they are part of the WPA family of meetings, but they are not WPA conferences or congresses. So you can always check that out. And for the regional and thematic meetings, they are by nature smaller. Typically, we would go to regions that are, well, the underdeveloped regions. This word is not politically correct anymore or whatever, but of course we know there are regions that are still in development, and where mental health is still not at the forefront. And that's where we go, because we want to make mental health forefront issue. I remember a very nice conference 2 years ago in Ethiopia. For the Ethiopian society, this was amazing. This was a big thing. They had the prime minister's wife, and and representatives from all walks of the society, and 200 people attended. That was big, right? That's for the region, very big. And WPA going there also lends a lot of weight, credibility, and helps them in the region develop the field and tell the politicians, look, here they come because they want to help us. And so I think this is important. So we should not forget about these meetings that will happen this year as well. One in Russia, one in Ukraine. They will be online. They will be basically in-person meetings, but they will have an online virtual component as well. Others are in the planning. And I think such a conference like this can be overwhelming. Sami, you're right. And today I looked at all these halls and I thought, oh my goodness, which hall, and then you switch, and that can add to a little bit of a fatigue. But the smaller conferences, they have, of course, they typically focus on one narrow theme and maybe just 2 concurrent sessions, and it lends itself even better, more to a virtual format. And I think, do not forget about these meetings. I urge everyone, or encourage everyone, to also check that out. Any other comment?
Just a thought about how people that are more introvert and more shy might feel safer, let's say, to start questions in a virtual format. But at the same time, Thomas, as you were saying, the mission of WPA is also to reach out. And I suppose now the only way that we can reach out is through the internet. But as we know, the access to the internet is not equal across the world. So particularly the countries perhaps that the WPA might need to reach out more are precisely the countries where there's less or more difficult access to the internet, not to make it as a rule, but on many occasions, which adds to the point that I really hope that we can have in-person meetings as soon as possible, and we can reach out to colleagues in different parts of the world.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I wanted to ask you both, the ECP. I mean, the ECP is a very, as I said, a very active section, strong. And is your membership, is the membership equally distributed across continents, or where would you like to see more members from? I mean, let's say low and middle income countries. Are you strong in terms of memberships in these countries, or would you like to see more from low and middle income countries or so?
Yeah, no, that's an important point. Well, actually, at the moment, for a number of reasons, most of our membership is actually from Asia. So most of our members are from Asia for a number of reasons. And actually, we have not so many members, not only from Africa, but actually from North America. And for example, in the case of North America, certainly it's not the rule that people don't, or ECPs don't have access to the internet, let's say, but over there are other associations, for example, the APA, the American Psychiatry Association, which has a number of resources for early career psychiatrists, and it might be the case that not all early career psychiatrists, or only a few of early career psychiatrists in the States feel compelled enough to be part of the section. But actually there's another point which I always emphasize, and I repeat, and I will say it again today, which is the membership of the early career psychiatry section is free. Because some people, especially in the United States of America, they think that there is this expectation that there is a fee to pay, and there's no fee, absolutely no fee. Motivation letter, CV, documenting that you are within, for example, the 7 years of training, or a letter proving that you are a trainee, and that's it. So there is no barrier apart from maybe like half an hour of your lives to put these documents together to become a member of the section. Now, what I would say is, although it has been extremely difficult during the pandemic, the reality for a number of psychiatry trainees and early career psychiatrists, actually, there was a group supported by the section of early career psychiatrists that started making collaborations around the pandemic. And there are some people over there who are from low and middle income countries. And these colleagues, with the support of the early career psychiatry section, they started to create either their national associations of early career psychiatrists or psychiatry trainees, or they started to be involved in international research on different topics of COVID-19. And I would say that there are in some countries, even low and middle income countries, that actually in terms of capacity building improved a lot during the pandemic. And I'm really proud of these colleagues who are in low and middle income countries in times which are so difficult as now in this pandemic, that were able through different ways and through their own resources and persistence and time and energy to really become role models in their countries. So obviously there's still more to do, and there's always much that one can do to help others, but I think we are moving in the right direction. And I think in what concerns early career psychiatrists and reaching out to low and middle income countries, out of necessity, out of a number of factors we actually achieved in this past year, more than perhaps in the previous years.
Well, thanks. Sami, what is the situation of early career psychiatry, or what about membership from the Arab countries, especially the Gulf region where you are right now? And maybe I have one question that I always wanted to ask you guys. Being an early career psychiatrist, or that the WPA gives you a platform. I think it also meant to help break some hierarchical barriers, because maybe in some parts of the world, more traditional, conservative, it may be harder to approach a senior colleague, the boss of your department, whatever, about an idea you have. So I think, and maybe here WPA can do more, even more. So maybe by going through WPA Early Career Psychiatrist section, you have a better, you can convey your messages much better in your own country, in your own department, because then it's actually maybe the president of WPA talks to the president of the Qatari society, say, look, I have heard that so-and-so, they're the psychiatrists, they have a great idea, they want to do this. So what do you think, Sami, how can early career psychiatrists, the ECP section, how can it help, loosen up stiff hierarchical barriers that might impede on progress, if you will?
Yes, exactly. So just to answer your first question, so for example, there are a few Arab countries where there are early career psychiatrist associations that have been created or that are sometimes very, very active. So one example is the Tunisian Association of Young Psychiatrists, actually. So I'm a former president of the association, and the association is now, very active. It has been very active since 2011. I think that's also the case in certain other Arab countries. In general, I also totally agree with the access or participation in WPA activities, making it easier, I think, for early career psychiatrists around the world to also be able to reach out to senior people, senior psychiatrists. I was honestly, personally amazed by the ease to, for example, talk to Professor Sartorius or someone like the WPA presidents like Professor Herman or Professor Afdal. It was easy to reach them. So they are very humble, very readily accessible, and you can discuss any topic with them. So I also was initially surprised on, the easy to access for early career psychiatrists to present anything in the conference as long as it's deemed useful. So and then I think many young psychiatrists, many psychiatric residents are able to participate not only in early career psychiatrist symposia but also in regular sessions as presenters. So this barrier, these boundaries between younger, less experienced, let's say, psychiatrists, and then the more experienced people, even people who are very famous, actually, the very famous psychiatrists. I think these barriers are going away little by little. I think this is very important because, as you said, in certain settings, I don't think this is only the case. For example, in more traditional countries, it's also the case in certain European countries. There's some sort of a barrier sometimes between the younger generation and then the older generation, and I feel that this hierarchy thing is sometimes preventing people from from taking initiative or from taking steps forward sometimes. So I think this is one major thing in the WPA activities in general. So I think everyone in the leaders in the WPA are really helpful and are really trying to empower and give to teach also the early career psychiatrists how to be leaders, because I think this is very important. We can learn leadership skills early in our career, so that to be able to be true leaders in the future. Professor Schulze, I think you are muted.
That's the, there will be never a meeting without a mute conflict. Yeah, so now we don't even know who is watching us. I hope that people are, do we have a chat? I'm just wondering, are some people asking questions or so? Is there anything? No, there's nothing at that point. Okay, close the chat again here. Can you still hear me? Yeah, oh, you are silent, that's why, you're muted. So anything that, what do you think, is there anything that from the, when we look at the, just the virtual platform, is there anything you have heard, is there any comments you would like to make? Is it easily, can we easily navigate this, the website? Any improvements to be made? I think sometimes people say, well, I had a hard time finding this and this. I mean, it's always the case. Anything that we can, we have Kenneth here on board, who are our ECO, who's doing they're doing a great job here, but we all learn. Maybe are there things that we need to improve?
I think the website is straightforward, easy to use as well. So, and the content is really very easy to access. I think just one minor point maybe is that some people get confused. I also personally get sometimes confused regarding the time, because since this is a virtual conference, I think I mean, it would have been better to actually see the timings based on your location. Otherwise, it could sometimes create some confusion for certain people. Other than that, I'm reading now a comment from one of our colleagues, Dr. Marcel Alexandru Gaina. He says, "Thank you for giving wings to young researchers worldwide." So he's just commenting on the stream, on the WPA stream on Facebook.
Not here, right? He's commenting on the on another channel.
On Facebook, actually.
On Facebook, yeah, right. Well, that's great. Yeah. So what's the time now? I think this was supposed to be an hour, or where do we stand? Do you know? We should know, but I don't.
Yeah.
I forgot. No, I think we have discussed a lot of things among ourselves. If there were now questions, I think we would be happy to answer, but this is not the case. So any other comment, Mariana, Sami, that you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, no, just a final thought that I really think that this Congress has a lot of good scientific content. And also to touch this point about hierarchies and how different cultures lead in different ways this relationship between early career psychiatrists and senior psychiatrists. And what I find unique is that regardless of the different nationalities and cultures that leadership in the WPA have, throughout time, they are always setting the example, you know, to different countries and to different societies and to different departments and to different units on how should be like a good relationship between senior psychiatrists and early career psychiatrists to empower early career psychiatrists. And I think early career psychiatrists that are taking part in this Congress can see these interactions and how informal our conversation is. And I hope they are inspired to change the reality with their colleagues in their own countries to improve your work. And I appreciate that different countries have different cultures, and it's not that we're going to have one culture across the world. That's not exactly what I'm saying. I respect that people come from different points and they also have different personalities. But I think it's very useful and very productive that there is a mutual respect and mutual opportunities for learning. between early career psychiatrists and senior psychiatrists, and early career psychiatrists will be the senior psychiatrists of the future. So it would be, you know, our honor to continue the legacy that senior psychiatrists are starting. So I'm really grateful for all the opportunities that WPA is giving to early career psychiatrists, and I just wanted to emphasize this publicly. I really think that WPA is setting an amazing example. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I think if you don't want to add anything, Sami, we can leave these. This could be the concluding remarks. And I just read here that Ken is letting us know that this has been going well, and we got many viewers, which is nice. So, and this video will be saved and shared across WPA social media channels, etc. And people can watch again from the beginning if they have missed this today. Okay, with that, thanks a lot. Shukran jazilan, ya Sami. And muito obrigado, Mariana. WPA is a multi-language association, as we all know. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Enjoy the conference and enjoy WPA. Spread the word. Bye.
Thank you very much.